Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Sustainable in the City in November.
Yeah, welcome everyone. We have an exciting episode with Melody Gibson and Cydney Thompson from the Civic Design Center today. We'll let some people go ahead and log on, maybe grab some lunch. I feel like I need another cup of coffee.
Does it have anything to do with the recent daylight savings
Absolutely.
change that we had? Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely messes with our internal clocks. And there is a fly buzzing around me. So if I'm making weird hand gestures, it's an unfortunate fly.
Yeah, the time change has me all messed up.
All right. Do we want to go ahead and get started and let folks trickle in as they may?
Yeah, sure. So we want to welcome to the show in today's episode that we are so excited to have Melody Gibson, education director, and Cydney Thompson, who is the youth programs intern from Civic Design Center, to learn more about the youth efforts in creating a sustainable and safer Nashville. Just a reminder, Sustainable in the City is a partnership between Zero Waste Nashville and Urban Green Lab. My name is Carissa Hampton. I am the Sustainable Households Manager here at Urban Green Lab. And I'm here with my co-host, Ali Omens, who is with the Zero Waste Program Coordinator for Metro Nashville Waste Services. So welcome.
Awesome. And before we get into all of the great content that Melody and Cydney are going to share, I'll go through a few housekeeping items for you, just reminders for how we do things around here at Sustainable in the City. So we want to keep the chat going and have things be very active in our conversation with Melody and Cydney. But for the most part, if you have questions for our great panelists this month, you will want to put those in the Q&A section of your Zoom screen. So that's the two little chat bubbles that you'll see at the bottom. You'll be able to type questions in there, and we will ask those questions to Melody and Cydney with the time that we have at the end of the episode. But any resources you'd like to share, you can put those in the chat. If Melody and Cydney say something that you want to support and echo on their behalf, feel free to show that in the chat. And then following this episode, we will be sharing out a recording for all of you via email, including any of those resources that are shared in the chat. And we will have that to you after this episode wraps up. And the recordings are then posted to YouTube, so you can access it via email or via YouTube.
Awesome.
And
You gotta go ahead and read our question of the day.
Yes, thank you. So to get us started with being active in the chat, we are going to have you answer a quick question for us. So because we're talking about community design, we thought it would be nice to hear where all of you are tuning in from around Nashville. So put in the chat for us what Nashville neighborhood you're tuning in from today. So for me, I'm tuning in from the Germantown area where my office is for Metro Nashville Waste Services. What about you, Carissa?
I am all the way out in Antioch. I've lived out here since 2006. And so I'm always repping 37013. We got 37027. Not sure which area that is. We got some Oak Hill. Yeah, some more Antioch, some Brentwood, Enchanted Hills, Lackland Springs. Okay, Brentwood. So we're scattered all around. Tuning in from Hermitage.
Awesome. We'll keep throwing those in the chat, and I'm going to move ahead to our sustainable happenings, just a few community events that are going on in the Nashville area for the month of November. First off, we have this webinar that was sent to us by our former guests on Sustainable in the City, Kendra Abkowitz, in the mayor's office. There is a webinar on Nashville's Urban Bird Treaty going on November 14th. This is a virtual opportunity to learn about what this means for preserving our bird habitats and creating a better environment for bird species in and around Nashville. So you can register for that at the link in the chat and learn more about what that treaty is at nature.org. Then moving along to an exciting opportunity to see recycling happen in action. My division, Metro Nashville Waste Services, we will be hosting a Nashville's recycling facility tour and talks on Friday, November 17th in honor of America Recycles Day. You will have to register for that opportunity. We're very, very excited and we're hoping that we have a lot of interest. So to accommodate that, we're going to have folks register for different time slots. So you can scan that QR code on the screen to register. There's also going to be a link in the chat and in the follow-up email. There are a few safety things we want to make sure of. This is a working facility. You'll actively see recycling happening. So we want to make sure that everyone stays safe, but we're really excited for that on-site educational opportunity. And with that's all I had. So we can turn it over to, or I'll turn it back to you, Carissa, to get Melody and Cydney going.
Yeah. So like I said, we are introducing Melody and Cydney from Civic Design Center. And with that said, Melody, I'm going to pass it over to you and you can go ahead and introduce yourself and get going.
Hey everybody, I'm Melody Gibson, like they said, Education Director at the Civic Design Center. And so I've been here for 8 years leading our youth programs, Design Your Neighborhood, that's in curriculum middle schools, and then our Nashville Youth Design team that Cydney's a part of. And so, yeah, happy to be here.
And hi everyone, my name is Cydney. I'm a part of the NYDT and I'm also the Civic Design Center's Youth Programs Intern. So a little bit about the NYDT. We're a diverse group of high school interns who work year-round to make Nashville's neighborhood more supportive of youth well-being. So first we start community outreach, where we send surveys to the community and then collect surveys and gather their ideas to create design. Then we come up with design and project ideas based on our survey. Oh. Oops, sorry guys, I thought it was up.
My bad. Go ahead, Cydney.
Okay, I'm gonna start over from the beginning, because I'm sure you guys are probably confused. So, hi everyone, I'm Cydney. So I've been a part of the NYDT for 3 years. And so the NYDT is a diverse group of high school students who work to make Nashville neighborhoods more supportive for youth. So we do that by first starting with community outreach, where we send surveys out to the community, and then we collect the surveys and gather their ideas to create design ideas. Then we come up with designs and project ideas based on their survey data from the community. Then there we install a low-cost temporary solution to see and collect data on if the project actually meets its community needs. From there, we bring up our data from the temporary build to advocate for long-term change. So today we want to see your ideas for a dream city for young people. So before we start our work, we learn about different types of wellnesses, such as physical, mental, social, and different parts of the built environment, such as transportation, parks, and housing. Then we think about the different parts of the built environment impacts and different types of wellness. Today, we'll focus on projects that are about environmental wellness and transportation. We first consider environmental wellness to be how well our surroundings support our health, safety, and overall well-being. Sustainability falls under this category. One of our first projects on making Nashville streets safer for youth and teens to walk. This was the first project we worked and created together as the NYDT. We first started by looking at data from our youth wellness map that we created from the surveys, like I mentioned earlier. And so we also saw a lot of themes emerge from that data, and one was a desire to walk more places. So then we looked at the data from the city's Vision Zero report and learned that pedestrians were being killed at a very high rate, and especially on Dickerson Pike. We chose the deadliest intersection on Dickerson Pike and designed a short-term crosswalk with colorful bulb outs to create more space for pedestrians and catch the eye of drivers. This design was meant to advocate for long-term change. Our design needed to stay within a 2,000 material budget and had to be installed by NYDT over a weekend. Our design also had to be approved by the Tennessee Department of Transportation and was the first tactical urbanism project they have ever improved. So on a weekend in October, we got out and we painted the installation. We measured the speed of cars before and after the installation and found out that they slowed down as they went around the curve. Community members talked about our project on social media and around the neighborhood, which gave us lots of attention. But we felt like we couldn't stop there. We needed to do research to understand if the design actually helped. So we led community walks before and after the installation to learn how the design impacted pedestrians. We took interviews with the local news so that more people could learn about our design work. A year later, TDOT announced a $30 million complete street project that they were going to put on Dickerson Pike, including where we did our installation. And then they credited our community advocacy that was done there. So next, I'll be talking about a project of mine that I'm doing currently at my school, Big Picture High School. And it's called Community Bus Shelter Project. So a problem that I noticed was the lack of shelter at and around the bus stops my peers and I waited at. There were as many as 30 plus of us that waited 30 plus minutes for the bus, often in extreme and uncomfortable climate situations. I then brought the problem and issue to the Nashville Public Transit System WeGo. They informed me that they were already aware that the intersection needed a bus shelter and that they will go ahead and start the process of installing a shelter. They gave me options for different types of shelters, and I chose the one that would fit the most people since so many of my peers wait there. So then I wanted to find out, how can I make the shelter authentic to my community and my school? So I came up with the idea of adding paint artwork on and around the shelter after it was installed. And so these are a few of the ideas I had in mind. And then on May 13th, I went to the bus stop and collected feedback from the community about what they wanted to see. I also gave a survey to the students at my school. Throughout the survey, many of my peers wanted to add artwork and flowers to make the area more lively and colorful. After I received a yes from WeGo to implement the bus shelter, I then applied for a grant with Greater Nashville Realtors to fund the paint day. They gave me the grant and offered to volunteer on the paint day. As for my senior capstone project, I will organize a group of community members, students from my schools, and volunteers from GNR, Greater Nashville Realtors, to paint artwork on and around the bus shelter. And then I'll pass it over to Melody. Thank you.
So now I'll talk about our middle school education program called Design Your Neighborhood. And so it's a curriculum that's designed to be embedded into like the course curriculum in middle schools. And then a little bit about how that connects to the Nashville Youth Design team. We recruit from those middle school classes in order to have members of the Nashville Youth Design team, so they can have like a next step and go a little deeper in their interest in design and their advocacy for their communities. A little bit more about the projects that we have. And so they last about 3 weeks. We developed them with and wrote them with teachers in Metro middle schools. All of the projects have some form of connection of whatever the project topic is to their course standards. And then it ends on some type of project that has a direct community impact. And then also we intentionally expose students to design and civically oriented careers. So I'm going to feature one of our science and STEAM projects that we call the Sustainable Transportation Paint Challenge. And it aligns with state core standards for middle school science classes. And of course, the art component weaves in the STEAM. And so before first what they do is they learn about how, like what transportation modes are and aren't sustainable and why, like what do fuel emissions do to our climate and our environment. And then also what are some ways that design can provide a more healthy and sustainable environment. If we can provide ways for more kids to walk or bike to school, that will reduce our need for an automobile. And so they are tasked with looking at the area around their school and their school zone, and we really rely on them, the students, to tell us what are the problem spots. Where do I feel unsafe crossing the street? Where could there potentially be a bike lane or a sidewalk that would, reach this neighborhood with a bunch of kids that are coming to school? And so we really put them in the driver's seat of identifying their problem spots. And before I get to that one, they also design solutions. So we teach strategies like crosswalks, bulb outs, bike lanes, and let them decide, kind of like building a toolbox, and then let them decide where they want what. And then the class votes on their favorite ideas. And our design team works on some type of paintable installation that incorporates the students' ideas and solves the problem that they presented. And so this one in particular that I'm featuring here was crosswalks at Antioch Middle School. So there was a concern that their bus lane here got really chaotic during times when, drop off and pick up with their buses. And they felt like they needed some pedestrian organization to the area. And so they painted a series of 3 of these crosswalks. And that pattern was designed by one of the students in order to help kids navigate the bus area. And then what's not shown here, because it wasn't done until very recently, still need to get pictures, is this crosswalk stretches out to Blue Hole Road, the street, where there's a community center on the other side. And since then, NDOT has, at the school's request, has actually painted crosswalks across the street to help connect this colorful crosswalk to one that connects them to the community center. So yeah, this is just a little quote here about how students really wish that they were listened to more. And, I always take a moment to just recognize how much they have to contribute when they have that space to do so, in making our communities healthier, more sustainable, and just better to use. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that information, both Cydney and Melody. So if we could take a second to kind of think about your sustainability journey, Melody, maybe you could start. How did you get into this this work with the community design with the Civic Design Center?
Yeah, so my background is I majored in architecture in school, and then I took a turn and did a temporary teaching program because I just got really, my senior year project was to design a school. And so in that research and learning process, I realized I also have this interest in education and in youth. And so I pursued that for what was supposed to be 2 years and ended up being 7. And then made my way back to, that was in Denver, made my way back to Nashville. I'm from Tennessee originally. And then found, the design center that is a great place to really use these two skill sets. But yeah, I think in terms of sustainability, I consider that like a super important part of why I like this type of work, because I think that it's like essential in considering that and how we design our spaces and our transportation and our buildings, because that yeah, I just think it has a huge impact on the types of environments that we create and the experiences that we have. And so, yeah, it's my journey.
Awesome. And Cydney, do you want to speak a little bit to your sustainability journey or how you came to be working with the Civic Design Center?
Yeah, my journey is kind of similar to Melody's. I always feel like I kind of had like a draw to designing and creating. Like my career in the future is hopefully to be an architect or a landscape architect. And so I felt like the Civic Design Center and me being a part of the National Design team helped like foster that and kind of create that into what it is today, and like help me figure out that this is what I want to do. So yeah.
So Melody, could you give us a little bit more information on like how the youth program got started? What was the mission and the guiding principles to really drive that work?
Yeah, I think it came out of just a realization of how beneficial it is to engage youth in community planning processes. And I think for the present right now, in terms of what they can contribute, and then of course for the future too. So, providing this education to develop hopefully a generation that really understands and values design and has a toolkit for community advocacy. And so, yeah, that's the mission, or that was like kind of the belief that really stems the work. And then of course, from there, it was just a matter of finding the right grants and funders and supporters. And our initial goal was to have a curriculum in schools in Davidson County. It was modeled after something that Chicago did back in 1920. Times in education were a lot more simple, and they just wrote a textbook about what they called the Plan of Chicago. So how to plan the city of Chicago, informed by the citizens. They taught that for a semester, and that was the idea that we really wanted to pursue. And so that was what led to the curriculum. And then we realized we had a lot of really great temporary touch points with students who were really interested in this type of thing in schools, but we didn't really have a long-term connection with them. And so we really felt the need to be able to give those ones that are interested like a next step. And that's where the youth design team came from, was feeling like we really wanted to kind of foster that interest and have a group of youth to go deeper in the community projects and advocacy.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that you had spoken a little bit about how the youth were feeling like they weren't being heard. So I guess Cydney probably speak to this a little bit more. Why do you think it's so important for younger generations in the community when making choices for our city?
Honestly, I hear a lot of adults talking about like how we're gonna shape the city in the future. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that we give youth and other teens my age like a chance to be able to have a opportunity to shape that city. So if they don't have an opportunity to do that, then it's like
yeah. We're essentially making choices for you.
Yeah,
right?
basically.
Yeah.
It's like we'll have no chance to grow, like, if that makes sense, because we're kind of being limited in schools, to just work. But it's like nothing really.
Yeah. And Melody, are you seeing that because the youth is working on these projects, more things are getting done, more attention is being drawn to it because of the youth?
Yeah, I mean, several things. Like Cydney mentioned that that was the first tactical urbanism project TDOT had ever approved on a state route. And we definitely attribute that to the youth, because us as adults had asked a lot, and we never really made it very far in our asks on that. But then they were really inspired. I think the youth just had an extra layer of inspiration for them than adults do. And yeah, they really inspired TDOT in a way that we couldn't. So yeah, I think that's definitely a big contribution.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how are you, I guess, Melody, how are you selecting youth to participate in these programs? So what does that application process look like? How many hours of their time are they like dedicating to this work? I guess either one of you guys can speak to that.
Yeah, well, we put out the call for applicants every spring. It's usually April and May. And it's just a pretty simple application on our website. And then we follow up with whoever applies and try and do an interview with the young person. So yeah, we do our best to get it out to everybody, go through schools and youth programs, put it out on social media. Yeah, because we really want to reach every corner of the county for that.
Mm-hmm. And Cydney, how many hours of like your time are you dedicating to this?
So at my school, I actually get to go to like the internship in person 2 days a week, and I still get my school credited hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend about 10 to 11 hours each week at the internship, and then I think about a month so during the summer, and then a few days throughout like each season. So it's not too much time, but it's enough time to be able to, do the things that I do.
Yeah, make a big impact.
Yeah.
Awesome. So can you, I guess either one of you, explain the process a little bit more? So I was reading a little bit more about like the data action advocacy type plan. So can you speak a little bit more to each of those stages?
Sure. So the initial part, the like data collection piece, well, before we do that, they go through a training. The new members go through a training about the basics of urban design and community research. So we partner with a group of researchers at Vanderbilt, some community research and action students, to provide that training. It's called participatory action research, where the community member is kind of in the seat of driving the research question and driving like what the questions are. So they go through that training, so they have a little bit of backgrounds, and then from there they come up with, after exploration, they come up with a question, a research question, and then some research tools to reach out to their peers about whatever it is that they're wanting to explore. Some years it's a topic, some years it's a geographic area. Yeah, we kind of keep that that flexible from year to year. Yeah, and then they analyze the data and then come up with those solutions that you saw, the quick build projects.
Awesome. Anything else to add, Cydney? No.
I mean, I think it's basically what you covered. Did you talk about the UTK people? Like the students? Yeah, I think I was gonna add that it's a very good opportunity, seeing that, I wanted to go to UTK and then seeing them come to work with the Civic Design Center. That's nice too, but I think Melody can talk a little bit about it.
Awesome. So I guess a little bit more, Melody, into what does it mean to be an education director? So how, what's your, I guess, role in supporting the interns on this journey?
Yeah, so I think I'm more of a facilitator, I guess. So I think I just try to help them be informed designers and advocates the best I can. I think it's really like remembering, that they need to be in the driver's seat, and they are the ones that like they have great ideas. And if you just kind of give them some tools, like we intentionally teach urban design and teach community research. And that's more of like toolkit building. So I see that as more of like my teaching role. And then after that, it's just getting them in front of the right people, helping them craft messages based on what they want to say. Same with the design work, feeding from their ideas from the design. And so at that point, I feel like I'm more of a support and uplifter for them versus, telling them what to do or something like that.
Right. Okay, awesome. So what part of this work has been most challenging? I guess we can maybe hear from Cydney first and then Melody. What has been the most challenging part of this work?
I think the most challenging part would just be the process of it. Like I feel like I would expect things to like happen a lot faster, but it kind of goes by really slow. It's like a very slow process, but it's worth it in the end. But I think besides that, just like talking with other adults and presenting to them, it's a little scary, but besides that, I think those are really the only challenging things.
Awesome. What about you, Melanie? What do you find, Melody, do you find is most challenging about this work?
I think probably, so as I mentioned, we also have a middle school program. And not to their fault at all. It is, I think, figuring out where we fit, like where this fits in a school, is always challenging because, we really believe in the ability for like this type of design thinking to really benefit young people's education. However, we're not like the school system. And so trying to figure out like where we work with them, how we fit in, what classes, because Metro Nashville's like a really big school system. And so, navigating all of that, trying to figure out where our place is, has been probably the most challenging.
Yeah, that's fair. I just left the classroom in May. And so these still, I can imagine having plans that are so well put together, kind of those plans that you kind of plug in, could be helpful though. So what ways can we get the public involved in this work, especially like informing projects happening in their own neighborhoods? Either one of you want to speak to that? What ways can we help out?
I'll let Cydney I'll talk about the adults and then I'll let her talk about the youth, what we're doing to get youth involved right now. But yeah, we're always needing volunteers for our projects, whether it's getting out and painting. One of those, we need a lot of adults to come out and help facilitate those paint days. Sometimes it's like if you do have a related career in sustainability or design, then we need a lot of adults to come in and talk about their careers. So yeah, volunteers for sure. And then otherwise, I'd say just visit our website. We have all kinds, the Civic Design Center, civicdesigncenter.org. We have a lot of events. So people that are interested in learning or getting involved, like events that are really accessible to the public, and fun and educational. So I would say that will be a good first step to just kind of learn and then check out our volunteer page.
Awesome. And Cydney?
So I think you said some ways that we can get youth involved. Is that what you? Yeah, okay. So so I think honestly the outreach that we're doing now is really good to get youth involved. We're on all social medias. We post a lot on there. We make videos to kind of like show our projects, like show what it is we've done. Like Melody said, we also have a lot of stuff on our website that includes like our blogs and news articles and interviews and things like that. And it kind of just shows our process from 2020 to now. But every time that I try to go with Melody and work on the Dream City workshops with her at middle schools, I try to let the little kids know like I'm a high schooler and I'm doing this, like, I think this is something that if you're interested in, it would be good for you too. Like, so I try to do.
Awesome. Well, I think that when we're talking about community design and we're talking about that sustainability piece and really creating the city we want to see in the future, I think this is a great start to be talking about those things with youth, people who will, take this city above and beyond currently and in the future. So I think this is great work, especially creating, I guess, spaces where you can walk across the street safely. You can avoid having to take a car and going on the WeBus transit system instead. So this is awesome. So what I'm going to do now is to hand it over to Allie to see if we have some questions from the chat or from the Q&A.
Awesome. Yes, we have a few questions, and just a reminder, if you have any questions that come to mind, please put those in the Q&A and we will pull those for Melody and Cydney. Thank you again so much for being here with us, and it's very interesting all that we've heard from already, so I'm excited to get more into the weeds on some of this. The first question we have asks about if there's a plan for Metro Schools, NDOT, and WeGo and Civic Design Center and any other relevant partners to improve crosswalks and pedestrian safety at all schools that need it. Is this a case-by-case kind of project, or is there a larger plan in place for making some of those changes?
Yeah, I think for our work right now, it's case by case. However, I know there's like Safe Routes to Schools is talking about like having a system for identifying schools, and I think that's coming in the future with the Safe Routes to Schools program. But right now, I think in terms of like where we like to focus would be, high injury networks, really feeding off of that Vision Zero plan, and where schools are there. So anytime we intentionally reach out to a school, it's because of that. It's because we know there will be some Vision Zero momentum behind, what the students are doing.
Awesome. And I know our recently, I guess maybe not so recent now, but our new Mayor O'Connell, is very transit oriented, very transit focused. So I imagine some of that may be coming down the pipeline with that. Thank you for speaking to that. Okay, next question, and this is for Cydney. If anything was possible, it's like big picture thinking. If anything, what green initiatives would you like to see in Nashville for youth?
Green meaning like green spaces and parks and things like that.
I think anything. They may have meant green, like sustainability, but also green, whatever comes to mind.
Honestly, if I'm thinking logically, there was a project that was supposed to be implemented. It was supposed to be like a community center, and I think it was Centennial Park for youth under the pavilion. And so I think that was something that was really great, having like a community center. It would include like a separate little park for youth, because I know that the playground that's there right now is kind of small and for, little kids. So, yeah. And then, of course, having more parks, not only just like downtown, but even stretching out to like outer cities such as like Antioch, because I know a lot of people don't consider Antioch Nashville, but
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's funny to think about having playgrounds that are oriented toward, like you said, a lot younger ages, and then infrastructure that's for people that are maybe a lot older, and where could we support people in between? That's great. And for those that don't know, Melody, you had mentioned Vision Zero, Nashville's Vision Zero plan. Could you speak a little more to what that is, what that plan is, and what that means?
Sure. So Vision Zero is in like a vision of zero pedestrian deaths. So yeah, it really addresses the problem spots, as they call them, the high injury networks, where those are in Nashville, where we're seeing just a really devastating number of pedestrians get killed just trying to walk, get to their bus stop or home or whatever it is. And so, yeah, that's what the whole initiative is geared around, is really trying to identify where those spots are and solutions for them.
Thank you. That's great. Let's see. Those are the only questions I have in the Q&A right now. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience? Any other resources you'd recommend, or projects you want to talk about in relation to this work?
Yeah, I will say we're working on a big data collection effort right now that we're calling Dream City. It's contributing to the Imagine Nashville initiative happening right now. But we're looking for ways to connect with young people about it. It's a really fun, interactive workshop where they design their dream city, and then take a survey, which is data that will feed into projects and inform really the next kind of phase of projects like what you saw. So yeah, if anybody has like a youth program or knows of any, then we would love to include you guys.
That's awesome. I hadn't heard of Imagine Nashville. I just pulled up the website. It looks really interesting. Could you speak a little more to that?
Yeah, there's an adult part of it too. So I encourage everybody to check it out. The adult part is just a survey. You don't get a fun workshop, but yeah, it's a community-led effort. So it's not connected to government. That's looking to learn the values and visions of people in Nashville. And so doing it through community listening sessions, a lot of different forms of focus groups and surveys. So it's basically like a massive outreach effort with the goal of reaching 10,000 people at least in Nashville. To learn what they value and what their visions are for the future. And so that is supposed to inform what's going to be like goals and priorities to really, so it's going to, kind of be this package, like, this is what the people of Nashville have said that our goals and priorities are for the future of our city. And we hope that that'll drive future agendas and change. It was done back 20 years ago in 93, but then it was called Nashville's Agenda. So it is connected to something that was done before and just was, and 20 years later, like, needed an update.
Yeah, a whole lot's happened in Nashville in 20 years.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. And all of this, whether it be youth or anyone else, it seems like the common thread here is having the community be involved in decision making and having the people who are impacted by design and other infrastructure decisions be involved in that process and making that happen. So it's really great to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, were there any closing remarks, anything that you wanted to add about any of the projects? No?
I'd love to hear from Cydney if she's willing to share what year are you in high school, and what are your I don't know, what are your next steps for the school year, or are you getting close to graduating?
Yeah, so it's actually my senior year. Yeah, I'm class of 24. So, as for my next plans, I'm not sure as of like where I want to go to college yet. But I do know that I want to do architecture and urban planning and landscape architecture, and hopefully, come back to Nashville and bring my input as a college student from like not a high school level, then a college student level, and then yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to see what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
All right. Well, I believe that is all we have today. I will be following up with an email with some of these things that were discussed in the episode by Melody and Cydney. So be on the lookout for that, as well as any links that were shared throughout.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you all so much. And thank you, Melody and Cydney, again for giving us your time and sharing your expertise with our audience. I know they greatly appreciate it. If you could see their faces, hopefully they'd be cheering and clapping and all these things. But thank you again so much for joining us. And our next Sustainable in the City episode will be on December 13th. And Chris and I will be sharing about the work that we do in our own organization. So we spend all this time bringing together experts on sustainability. But in a way, Chris and I are also experts. So we're going to host ourselves in December. But we'll see you then and take care for the rest of November.
Yeah. All right. Bye. Have a good one.